So, without any further ado, you open your books to Zot HaBracha, and I just want to ask you to consider, if you would have written the Torah, what would be the last portion that you would write? What would that be entitled? How would you close this awesome book? And the way Moshe Rabbeinu closed it was with blessings. Zot HaBracha, this is the blessing. So let's go to page 1112 in your Chumash, if you have a Chumash in front of you. If not, just follow me. Those of you who have been coming to our classes regularly, you know that I have pointed out time and again that there is nothing redundant in the Torah. Every word, every letter, every punctuation mark is measured, has hidden meaning. It's not Bible stories. You cannot just study it or read it. It has to be really meditated upon. You have to go deeply into every single word as you study. So you are going to start to read and you will see how amazing that is. V'zot habracha sheberach Moshe ish orakim es bnei Yisrael v'fnei Moso. And this is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the Jewish people prior to his death. So right away you have to start asking questions. And the first question that you would like to ask is, since I told you that the Torah is committed to brevity and there is no word that is superfluous, there's nothing that is redundant, so why does it say V'zot HaBracha, and this is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the Jewish people? She had simply said, and Moses, the man of God, blessed the Jewish people, and say the blessing. Why do you have to say, and this is the blessing? Everybody follows me? That's superfluous, unnecessary. Moses, the man of God, blessed the Jewish people and give the blessing. Why do you have to say, and this is the blessing? Just make the blessing. So the answer is that the word Zot is always a code word for God. What you have to know first and foremost is Zot HaBracha. I'm sorry, I like to say that the word Zot is always a code word for Torah. For Torah. So the first thing that you have to digest and absorb is that the blessing is Zot HaBracha, the Torah is your blessing. Zot is always a code word for Torah. So Zot HaBracha, the blessing is what? The Torah. You want to have a good life? Torah. You want to have wisdom? Torah. You want to have good health? Torah. You want to have meaning to your life? Torah. What is your blessing? Torah. Zot HaBracha. Torah is your blessing. That's the first piece of wisdom that you have to place into your heart. You don't have to go to the Himalayas. You don't have to cross oceans. You don't have to buy a home here or fly over there to be happy. It's right here in this book. It's right in this book. This is your blessing. That's one reason. Now comes another question. And this is the blessing. The letter Vav is and, A-N-D. How do you start a new chapter with and, A-N-D? I would have commenced my books with A-N-D. My editor would have said, Rebbetzin, you don't start a chapter with and. Just every elementary school child knows that it's improper. You don't write that way. So why does Torah commencing this portion with and, A-N-D? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us, the blessing that I'm giving you is not my own and is connected to Jacob's blessing. When Jacob, our patriarch, blessed his children prior to his death, he also used the word Zot. And to this very day in time, whenever we bless our children, whenever we bless each other, when the Kohanim, the priests, bless us, they don't use their own words, but the words of the patriarchs, the words of Aaron the high priest. So it's always and. We connect to the past. Blessed are the Jewish people that we could connect our blessings to the past. It's so awesome. It's so wonderful. Now comes another reason for and, A and D. In the previous portions, throughout the book of Deuteronomy, Moses bids farewell to the nation, but as he does so, he admonishes the people. And those admonishments are very painful, very painful. He tells them all kinds of things. He tells them that which will happen in the future, even the Holocaust. He tells them when the temple would be destroyed. He tells them about our exile, how the land of Israel would be desolate, and how finally towards the end we would return to the land and reclaim the land and rebuild the land. As a matter of fact, he describes even our own generation, what will happen prior to the coming of Messiah. Everything is described. I told you once before that in the Hebrew language, you don't have a word for history, because history doesn't exist for us. So in modern Israel, if you want to say history, you say historia. It's an English word, but you just add ya to history. Historia, to make it sound Hebrew. So why don't we have a word for history? Because we don't have a history. Because our history was given to us up front. Over 3,330 years ago, our history was given to us up front. Over 3,330 years ago, our history was given to us at Sinai. History means that somebody writes down that which occurred in the past. Our life story was written for us before it ever happened, which logically doesn't make sense. So if you would only be aware of that, anyone would be aware of that, they would have to come to God and would say, oh my God, this is a miracle, there's a God in this world, this is the book of God. So Moshe Rabbeinu tells us all these painful happenings that would befall us because we would break the covenant. We would neglect the commandments. And there would be consequences to that. And we hear this. So immediately, Moses concludes with a bracha, with a blessing, to assure us that we'll be okay at the end. We'll survive it all, and we'll triumph, and we'll be victorious. And that's an awesome gift we have from God. A wisdom that you should never forget. And apply it, you must apply it to your personal relationships, the way you raise your children. Never admonish without giving the blessing. So sages in the Talmud say, with your left hand, you give a punch, you admonish, you chastise, and immediately with your right hand, you draw the person close to you, and you give them a hug and a kiss. With the left hand, which is the weaker hand, you admonish. With the right hand, you bring them back to you. Isn't that wonderful? And this is applicable to all relationships, husbands and wives, friends. Never admonish with the right hand, only with the left, the weaker one. With the right, you embrace, you bring the person back. So our father Jacob, for example, when he admonished Simon and Levi, he said, cursed be their temper, oh Ahu, cursed be their temper. But he never cursed them. It's a big difference. I don't like what you did, but I love you. I reject what you did, but I do not reject you. You see the difference? It's huge. I reject what you did. I do not reject you. Never brand a person by saying you're a liar. See, I'm sure, I know you are committed to truth, but what you are saying does not reflect truth. You must have misunderstood. you must have misunderstood. You didn't hear it correctly. It's different than saying to somebody, you're a liar, because when you tell somebody that he or she is a liar, you grab them and they have no place to go but dad. If you say to them, you're committed to integrity, to truth, then they have inspiration to try to attain that truth. Even if in your heart you know that they were lying. Tell them, I know you didn't want to lie. You're not a liar. You're a person of integrity. But what you said is incorrect. Totally different. We learn this from the patriarchs, we learn this from Moshe Rabbeinu. Always, but always bless after you admonish. Person should never feel rejected. Never feel that they are out of the picture. They have no hope anymore. Person should have inspiration to come back. One more reason why we have the and at the beginning of the passage, and that is that in the Hebrew language, every letter of the alphabet is also a number. So Aleph is not just A, but it's 1. Base is not just B, but 2, and so on, correct? So the letter Vav is 6. This passage, V'zos HaBracha, opens with the letter Vav, number 6, and the passage ends with the letter Vav, more so. The last letter is Vav. 6. 6 and 6 is how much? 12. What is 12? The 12 tribes of Israel. Teaching us that when you bless one, you have to bless all. When you give a blessing to one, then you have to give a blessing to all your children. You see that all parents love their children equally? Yes and no. Yes and no. If you think that love means I want you to be healthy and well, then all parents love their children equally. No parent wants to see any of his or her child sick or ill, God forbid. But it is also true that very often one child gets on your nerves and the other one doesn't. One child irritates and the other one you are tolerant of. Why? They could be doing the same thing, but with one child you lose it, with the other one you look away. It's unfortunate. So you have to be very careful not to be partial, because people remember even in their adult years, my sister was always my father's favorite, or my brother was always my father's favorite, or my mother's favorite. And that's very hurtful. Be very candid with yourself. Learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. Everyone has to have a blessing the same way, with the same love. This doesn't mean that you don't admonish. Moshe Rabbeinu admonished, yes, each person according to his need, but the love that he gave each was equal. So that is what and is all about in these beginning passages. Ha-brocha, the blessing. The word brocha, blessing in Hebrew, comes from the word brecha. Brecha means a well. The deeper you dig into the well, the more water comes forth. The more blessings you give, the more blessed you are. Never be afraid of being generous with words. Never be afraid of giving the blessing of imparting kindness and love. Never be afraid that you're going to spoil somebody with too much love. You can never spoil anyone with too much love. You cannot spoil your wife, you cannot spoil your husband with too much love, nor your children. You can only spoil by indulging bad behavior, but not by love. Remember that. Asher berach Moshe ish Elokim, that Moses, the man of God, blessed. The man of God. Such an awesome calling. To be able to be described as a man of God. To live by God's word, that is a man of God. So So when people meet you, immediately they recognize that you belong to God. You are a man of God. You belong to the Almighty. And that is something that speaks on your behalf, that identifies you, a man of God. The other night when I spoke, I related a story about my husband, Harav Shalom Halevi Jungreis, of blessed memory. My husband, in addition to being a congregational rabbi, was also the chaplain of the police department. The police commissioner, when he visited my husband in the hospital, said to me, Rebbetzin, through the rabbi, I discovered the meaning of God. And he went on to explain, and he wasn't Jewish. He said, I never understood God until I met the rabbi, and now I know that God must come from the word goodness. God and goodness are synonymous, and the rabbi taught me that. So let me tell you, we lived in North Woodmere, Long Island. That's where our congregation was. Across the street from our home was a little lake, and it was under lock and key. There was a big fence around it. My husband had the key to the gate, and he would go to the lake with my children, and later on with my grandchildren, our children, to feed the ducks. My husband died in the month of January. It was very cold, bitter cold. There were no ducks around. We had a police processional. We had a great motorcade. And there were hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of people who came. The highways were closed. The streets were closed. Helicopters were flying overhead. And suddenly, as we came close to our home, because we're going to stop in front of our house with the casket, suddenly the processional came to a halt. I couldn't understand what happened. I got out of the car. What's going on? The street was lined with ducks. Countless ducks lined the street, and they wouldn't budge. No one could understand it. As a matter of fact, the story is recorded in my book, The Primitive Life. It has been recorded in some other books as well. For such a miracle. Even the ducks felt his goodness. And they came to say goodbye, to pay honor. Even the ducks. At the end of his life, Moshe Rabbeinu is not called the man of God. Instead, on the last page of the Torah, he's called Eved Hashem, the servant of God. What is the difference between a servant and a man of God? Servant of God is the highest level. You know why? A servant has no identity of his own. Who are you? I'm the servant of such and such. No identity. A servant doesn't have possessions. All his possessions, even his children, belong to the master. Everything I have belongs to my master. King David, the psalmist, in his psalms wrote so magnificently, Ono Hashem, please God, Ani Amasecho, I am your servant. Ben Amasecho, the son of your servant. Ono Hashem, please God, Ani Amasecho, I am your servant, the daughter of your maidservant. No identity. I'm the servant of my God. That's my life. Whatever I possess Whatever I do, wherever I go, is for my master. The servant is on a very high level. You know why? Because the servant has the keys to all the chambers. Could come and go at will in the palace. He doesn't have to have an appointment. He doesn't have to have an appointment with the king, with the master. He doesn't even have to call up. Could just enter the room. He has the keys to all the chambers. There are no locked gates in front of the servant. Every room, every door is open to him. It's amazing. Moshe Rabbeinu had the key to every chamber in the heavens above. Could come and go at will. He was the servant of God. Whatever he wanted, he was able to do. The servant of God. Never again will there be another Moses. All other prophets had to pray, had to be worthy of prophecy. Just didn't come automatically. Moshe Rabbeinu, panim al panim, face to face he spoke to God, just like you and I are speaking right now. Anytime he wanted to go to God, God, I want to ask you a question. Never again will there be a man like Moses. With Moshe Rabbeinu, the prophecy was sealed. Whatever commandments were given to Moses, that was it. After that, nothing new was ever given again. So much so, listen carefully, Joshua, who took Moses' place, prior to Moses' death, Moses asked Yehoshua, do you have any questions? And Joshua said, my master, haven't I been at your side all this time? I heard every teaching. I never missed a teaching. Joshua should not have said that. He should have said, my master, could you please repeat it again? Teach me again. Because you never finished studying the Torah. You never heard it. You have to hear it again. You always have to chazorah. One more time you have to review it. Because every time you review it, it comes a little bit differently. Some of you are sitting here, come to my Tuesday night class and come back Thursday night. That's fantastic. Because Torah cannot be heard just once. It should be heard many times. So it should leave an impression that is lasting in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. It has to be reviewed and reviewed and reviewed. That's the only way to study it. In yeshivas, that's how you study. You have chazorah. You repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it, until it becomes part of you. And every time you hear it again, there's a different dimension that you missed. There's always something that you missed. Every day it's a different day. So after Moses' death, Joshua forgot some laws. And he asked God to teach him. No. Hashem said, it's sealed. Never again will there be another revelation. There was only one revelation. And that revelation took place through Moses at Sinai. That's it. That's it. So if anyone ever claims that they have a new revelation, they have been given new prophecy, you should know it cannot be. Everything was sealed with Moshe Rabbeinu. When did he bless the Jewish people? Lifnei Moso, before he died. It's very important to remember. Before you die, you have to make sure to impart a legacy, your calling card. But you might say to me, Rebbetzin, Moshe Rabbeinu, Jacob, they knew when they were going to die. But how do we know? We don't. Therefore, our sages said, make every day, live every day as if it would be your last. Because you don't know when God will call you. Let me tell you a story. Again about my husband. My husband was at Sloan Kettering. And he was, as I told you, a man of God, truly a spiritual, holy person. All goodness. We were with him 24/7. We never left him alone. My children would come and they would rotate so that there should always be at least one of the children at his bedside. I was there all the time except when I came to teach over here. He insisted that I should come to teach. Other than that, I was in the hospital the whole time, and my children came on rotation. When one came, and when one departed, the other one came. There was always one of the children were there. Well, the nurse came. This was right before he passed away. The nurse came to change his dressings, and he was in terrible pain. And she told me to please wait in the solarium, which I did. She drew the curtains. You know how to draw. You draw the curtains. My daughter slowly arrived. She sees the curtains drawn. She stands. She doesn't want to intrude. And she hears her father weeping. And the nurse saying, "Rabbi, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to be as gentle as I can. Am I hurting you?" And my husband said, no, well, I would never cry for physical pain. How can I explain to you that I'm crying because very soon I will have to face my Maker? And what will I say? What will I say to him? And the nurse burst out crying as well. And slowly came running to the solarium. And we both hugged and cried and cried. Before you die, take a good look at your life, that which is today, every day. You never know when you will have to face your Maker. What will you say? What will you say? What is the legacy that you are imparting? What is your life all about? What will you say? I told you many times that one of the most important prayers that we say every morning, right before Olinu, is Shalom Nigalovik. Please God help us that we should not labor in vain. Shalom Nigalovik. We shouldn't have been born for no reason. Our life should have meaning. Our life should have meaning. So you have to live your life every day as if it would be your last. The angel of death comes unannounced and does not discriminate between the young or the old. And you know that. Unannounced and does not discriminate between the young or the old, the wealthy or the impoverished, males or females. Unannounced. Be ready. What will you say to your Maker? Leave behind a legacy, a calling card that will testify to your life. Now we go to the second passage. Vayomar, and he said, Hashem miSinai, God came from Sinai, V'zorach miSeir, and he shone forth from Seir. Hopa meha Paran, and he appeared on the mountain of Paran. Voso meroz kodesh, and he came with some of his myriads. Mimino ish dat lomar, and he brought a fiery Torah in his right hand. What are you talking about? God came to Sinai. What's Sinai? And by the way, where is the blessing? This is the blessing. Before he blesses, he teaches us something, Moshe Rabbeinu. Before you bless, review the credits of the one you are blessing, so that God, who is the ultimate giver of blessing, should find a person worthy. She is a good girl. She's so wonderful. She's so kind. Oh God, help her. Think positive thoughts. So Moshe Rabbeinu reviews our credits. And these are the credits. Listen carefully. God came from Sinai. What's Sinai? Sinai was the smallest of mountains. A little hill. That's where God chose to give the Torah. Can you imagine that? If I would have been gone, if you would have been gone, we would have gone to the Himalayas or Mount Everest or at least the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. A little hill in Sinai? Is that a proper setting? But we, the Jewish people, were just like Sinai. Because we came to Sinai crushed from Egypt. After 210 years of being in Egypt, in oppression, in torture, in darkness, in bondage, we were abused, we were killed, we were slaughtered, we were enslaved. When people are abused, what happens to them? They become abusers. When people are tortured, what happens to them? They torture others. When people are enslaved, what happens to them? They enslave others. Everybody knows that. That's modern psychology, no? This person went off. You know why? Because he comes from an abusive home. This person became this and that because you know why? Dysfunctional family, environment, etc., etc. We, the Jewish people, were abused, tortured, and we came forth from the abuse and we said, we shall abolish abuse. We were in bondage and we came forth and we shall abolish slavery. We shall proclaim freedom throughout the world, throughout the land. We shall love the stranger because we were strangers in the land of Egypt and we know the heart of the stranger. We shall be kind to the widow because we were in Egypt and we know what cruelty means. And we shall take care of the widow. Do you understand this? We took our suffering, we took our pain, and we created a magnificent gift to the world. We took our broken eggs and we made omelets. And we fed the world. We didn't cry over the broken eggs. We didn't get angry that somebody broke our eggs. We made omelets, delicious omelets, and we gave it to the world. But first, before we ever came to Sinai, before we said to God, we shall do it, we are committed, we shall follow you. Before that, God took our Torah. God opened it to all the nations. Actually, what happened was, if you remember your history, after the flood of Noah, God gave all of humanity 7 commandments, just 7 commandments. But nobody kept it. Even 7. Too difficult. So now God goes to Seir. What's Seir? Seir means hairy. The one who was hairy, who was born complete, full of hair, was who? Esau. The land of Esau was called the land of Seir. He was complete. He didn't have to strive to complete himself. Jacob had to strive, he had to grow, he had to struggle. Esau didn't have to struggle. The sun shone over Seir. The sun was always shining upon him. He was born in luxury, complete, and he always had luxury. And when God offered the Torah to him, he said, what's in it? And when he found out, no, thank you. I cannot live by those disciplines. Not for me. Esau was a man of the hunt. Can you imagine? Hunting to be a sport? Do you understand that? Killing a little bird or a big animal, whatever, and then stuffing it and hanging it up in your house. Look what I did, I killed that bird. I killed that bear. Esau was a man who was always with a sword. He was a killer. No, he didn't want the Torah. It's too much. And then God went to the mountain of Pe'er, where the children of Ishmael lived. They also asked, what is in the Torah? And God told them, no thank you. And the Jewish people said, Na'aseh, we shall do it. Afterwards, Nishma, we shall study it. We shall not study it because we accept it on condition, if we like it. We shall study it so we should be able to fulfill your commandments and live by those commandments unconditionally, without looking at it, without considering anything. We accept it because we know it comes from you, God. It has to be perfect. And God came to the Jewish people with Das Lamo. Das Lamo means the word, if you interchange the letters in those words, spell Talmud. Talmud means the oral law. You cannot understand this Chumash, this Bible, without understanding the oral law. The oral law gives fire to every word. If you read this Bible on your own, you'll never get it. Nobody ever gets it. It's not Bible stories. You have to have the oral law, because at Mount Sinai, God gave us the 5 books, the 10 Commandments, the entire Torah, with the oral law, Talmud, and that gives it fire. So when there are some foolish Jews who say, well, I believe in God, I believe in the Bible, but not what the rabbis did. Well, not what the rabbis enacted, what are you talking about? Like the Talmud, they say, what are you talking about? You cannot keep anything from this just by saying the 5 books. Nothing would make sense. For example, where does it say that you have to light candles for Shabbos? No place. It's all in the oral law. Where does it say that you have to fast on Yom Kippur? You know what it says in the Chumash, in the Torah? You shall afflict your souls. What does that mean? Maybe to some people could mean sitting on a bed of nails. Or maybe, torturing yourself, cutting up yourself. Maybe that's affliction. Or maybe perhaps for people who are anorexic, it's eating. So how do you understand what affliction means? Talmud, our sages teach us, teaches us, it means fasting. You cannot understand this book without the oral law. That's what gives it fire, that's what gives it life. So it's not that we are a racist people. It's not that God chose us because we are superior. We chose God. We chose the Torah. And anyone who is willing to choose it is welcome. The doors are open. Anyone can convert. Black, yellow, green, it doesn't matter. As long as you are willing to keep the commandments and be part of God's covenant. That's the only requirement. The nations of the world had another chance. When God spoke at Sinai, the entire world heard. The entire world shook. The entire world trembled. At the splitting of the Red Sea, the waters all over the universe were split. Everybody knew that the great Egyptian empire was defeated, that Pharaoh and his mighty army drowned in the Red Sea, that the sea split. all the nations should have rushed to Sinai. Everyone should have come to Sinai. In this entire world, no one came to Sinai except one man, Jethro, who became the father-in-law of Moses. He was the priest of Midian, and he converted, and from his descendants came great judges in Israel. The entire world heard, but no one heard, except we, the Jewish people. You should always remember this. In vain does God send a message. It's up to you whether you will hear it or reject it. In vain do you get a wake-up call. It's up to you whether you will hear it or reject it. So now let's go to the next passage, and I go to sentence 4. Torah was commanded to us by Moses. It's a heritage for the congregation of Jacob. What is the difference between a heritage and an inheritance? Yerusha means inheritance, Morashah means heritage. Huge difference. Huge difference. An inheritance is something you inherit. Your father died, you inherited $1 million, $100,000, $10,000, whatever it is. You could do with it that which you wish. You could blow it, squander it, you could build it up. It's your choice. You could give it away, it's up to you. It's your inheritance. A heritage is given to you in trust. You cannot tamper with it. You have to pass it on to future generations. It's a heritage. The Torah was given as a heritage to the congregation of Jacob, all the Jewish people. It has to go from generation to generation. You cannot tamper with it. You cannot modify it. You cannot alter it. You cannot cut. You cannot shape. It has to be left in perfect condition as God gave it to you. You dare not touch it. Can you imagine going to a museum and seeing a Rembrandt or a Van Gogh and saying to yourself, you know what? I will put some more blue or maybe some more orange there, and you take out some paint and you start, playing around with it. They'd arrest you. You're being jailed in a minute. And who has the audacity, the chutzpah, to change the laws of God? You cannot observe something. Ask God to forgive you. We just said Yom Kippur, our faith, forgive me for the sins. But don't you dare to change it. Don't you dare to say, well, I am not Orthodox, and because of that I don't have to eat kosher. I am not Orthodox, I don't have to keep Shabbos. Where do you come off? You show me on which page of the Torah it says only Orthodox Jews have to keep the commandments and others are absolved. There is no such word as Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist in the Torah. It does not exist. These are modern-day political terms that justify. People try to make it justify their abandonment of the covenant. If you cannot observe something, ask God to forgive you. And this is not intended as politics. Just think. This is integrity. We are all good people. How do we fall into this trap? American Jews, unfortunately, do not think about this in a serious manner. Say, well, I'm not that religious, so I guess, it doesn't apply to me. I'm not Orthodox. What do you mean you're not Orthodox? Everything applies to you. The Reform movement was started in Germany in the 1800s. How can you reform the Torah? How dare you even, consider that? You cannot keep something, ask God to forgive you. It's like, somebody invites you to dinner, 6 o'clock, Monday evening. You say, you know what, I don't feel like going 6 o'clock Monday evening, that's not convenient for me. I'm going to go Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And you show up Wednesday at 4 o'clock, unannounced. Who are you? You cannot come in here. Well, I'm coming for dinner now, I decided. When you decided, you cannot make your own rules and say that this is what your host should accept. God is our host. He gave us rules, commandments. He's our host in this world. You cannot go at 6 o'clock when he invited you, say, I'm so sorry, forgive me. Perhaps next year, perhaps next week, perhaps tomorrow. I could give me another chance, give me a rain check, but I cannot make it now. I'm not ready. I don't feel proper. I can't get dressed. I don't have the strength to get dressed. I don't have the proper clothing. I'm uncomfortable. I'm ashamed to see you. I am not able to come, God. Please forgive me. But don't you say, I'm coming at my own time. I'll decide when I come and how I will dress and what I will do. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. It's our heritage given to us by Moshe Rabbeinu. And by the way, it says that Tinok she'yochal ledaber chayov ori, a child who knows how to speak, the father has to teach him this passage. Torah tzivo lonu Moshe. Torah was commanded to us by Moses. Mora Shaka Hilas Yaakov. It's the heritage of the congregation of Jacob. This is the legacy that every parent must impart to their children. Not Jack and Jill. So now we come to one last sentence. Let's see all the blessings. I am not going to be able to go through all the blessings with you because we just don't have time. Our class is really coming to a close. But I do want to share with you the blessing that Moses gave to the tribe of Judah. Why? Because we are all from the tribe of Judah. That's you and that's me. That's why we are called Jews. We had 12 tribes, 10 tribes were lost. Those 10 tribes, if you only find them, reconnect with them, and Messiah will come. All of us Jews today come from either Judah or Benjamin, because Benjamin was part of Judah. Benjamin was the one who was responsible for the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Or some of us come from Levi, because the tribe of Levi were dispersed throughout the land. Okay? So here we go. Judah. We are Jews, Judah. And this is the blessing that Moshe Rabbeinu gave to Judah. It's so beautiful. It's sentence 7. V'zos Yehuda, and this is for Judah. Vayomar, and he said, Shema Hashem kol Yehuda, please God, listen to the voice of Judah. V'zos Yehuda. What is Zos? Remember I told you? Zos is always a code word for Torah. Judah represents Torah. When Moshe Rabbeinu gave that blessing, he went all the way back, and Jacob the patriarch and his family descended to Egypt. It says, Vayishlach Yehuda lefono. He first sent Judah in the front lines. So Judah should prepare a yeshiva for the children. So as soon as they arrive to Egypt, the children should learn Torah. You say that God didn't give us the Torah yet. In the days of Jacob, we didn't have the Torah as we know it today. That came later at Mount Sinai, correct? But we didn't have the Torah as we know it today. But we had scrolls that our people studied. For example, Psalm 92 was written by Adam. And our people studied those scrolls. The son of Noah, Shem, had a yeshiva, an academy in Jerusalem where he taught scrolls written by Adam, passed down throughout the generations to Noah, to all the people. You understand? So they studied those scrolls. So, Vayishlach Yehuda lefono. Judah was sent first. For what purpose? To establish a yeshiva. As soon as he came, he must study. Never have one day without connecting with God. You're a man of God, a servant of God. Don't allow a day to pass by without connecting with your Heavenly Father. If you're a good child, you will not allow a day to go by without connecting with your mom. and your dad, give a phone call. It's the easiest thing to do. My father, of blessed memory, would say, the easiest mitzvah you could do is pick up that phone and say, "Hi, Mom." Takes a few minutes. "Hi, Dad." How long does it take? Every day you give a call. Every day you give a call. I never allowed a day to go by not to call my holy parents. And as soon as Shabbos was over, that was my first phone call. My mommy, my tati. Even when I was a grandmother. And you know, after my parents passed away, it was so difficult to get used to not making that phone call. 1,000 times I would go to the phone to pick up the phone to say hello. It was so automatic. Whenever I went someplace, 1,000 times I would call up my husband. It's an easy thing to do. Similarly, you call up your Heavenly Father. Never allow a day to go by without connecting with Torah. Torah is the voice of your Father in the heavens above, your God. And then Shema Hashem, listen, O God, to the voice of Judah. What is Moshe Rabbeinu asking for? What is the voice of Judah? Who was the greatest in the tribe of Judah? David, King David. What did King David give to mankind? What did King David give us that we were able to offer to God? And throughout the centuries we are offering that. And all the nations of the world are offering it. The book of Psalms. King David wrote Psalms. And do you know how he wrote his Psalms? King David suffered like no other human being ever suffered. King David suffered in his young years. He was abused. He was mocked. It's a whole story. I don't have time to go into it tonight. And then he was pursued and persecuted by King Saul. So much pain. And then when he became king of Israel, God allowed him to fall into a sin with Bathsheba. It was like a trap set for him, like intentionally. Why? So that Nathan the prophet was able to come to him and say to him, a terrible, terrible thing happened, and Nathan told him a parable, a story. And when David listened to that story, he said, Chotosi, I have sinned, that's me. And he wept and wept and wept. Can you understand that? Any monarch, somebody would dare to criticize the monarch, off his head. Take him away. David was an absolute monarch. Off his head, take him away. And King David fell in front of the prophet. That's me, I sinned. Even today, would any of you dare tell your boss, if he's a difficult, miserable individual, that you're a difficult, miserable individual? I mean, you'd be finished. Who dares? Everybody yeses everybody. You know that. And David said, I have sinned. And no one could console him. And he wrote psalms, and every psalm was drenched with his tears. Every night he would have his harp on his balcony. And in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, the winds always blow at night. It's always windy at night. And the winds would caress the strings of the harp and would say, Ura, David, wake up, David. And David would get up and create psalms. There isn't a pain, there isn't a suffering that a human being can have that does not have a psalm. because David experienced it all. So Moses says, listen to the voice of Judah. Oh God, listen to the voice of Judah, because that's how man will be able to survive the centuries, through tshuva, through coming back to God. And who is the one who showed us how to do tshuva? David, king of Israel. He had to fall, so you and I should know how to survive a fall. If King David was able to write psalms, you and I could recite his psalms. And God will forgive us and could start all over again. That's what it's all about. Listen to the voice of Judah. That's the blessing, and God listens. That's what Yom Kippur was all about. Al Chet, remember, for the sin that I sinned. It's the voice of Judah. It's the voice of David. And all the nations of the world, not just us Jews, but all the nations of the world have adopted our book of Psalms. It gives comfort and consolation to all humankind. So God, listen to the voice of Judah. So listen to me, my friends. Tomorrow night is not only Shabbat, but Sukkot. I want to wish you all a Chag Sameach, a joyous Yontif. Next week we will be back here, although it's Sukkot, and we will be having classes because it's Chol HaMoed. You know, it's not Yontif yet. We'll be having classes, and with God's help, we should be able to see Mashiach very soon, redemption and blessing for all our people and the world. I thank you so much.